This is the fat most people have but want to get rid of. And this is the fat that doesn't just make your belly look rounder, but also cranks out inflammatory proteins that can increase the risk of heart disease, diabetes, fatty liver disease, and some cancers. The good news? You don't need to do this, or drink this to fix it. The bad news? It's wrapped in and around your internal organs, so not even surgery can fix this. The more fat you have around your belly, the higher your chance of dying younger, with every extra 10 centimeters around your waist linked to roughly a 10% higher chance of early death. Because visceral fat is not just cosmetic. You can look slim on the outside but still have too much fat around your internal organs. Some people call this skinny fat. And while you can't choose exactly where your body stores fat, visceral fat does have a weak spot. It responds strongly to your metabolic health. So today I'm going to show you how to use science to your advantage to tackle this. Now you might be wondering, am I just genetically doomed? Us Irish people will refer to this as our beer belly. Or if you are Asian or Hispanic, you might feel personally victimized too. But is it genes, or is it the pints of Guinness in the pub on a Saturday night? Or is it the bubble tea that 30% of Taiwanese people consume every single day? Well, genetics, they do matter, but what you drink matters too. So this is where I would start. When you flood your body with liquid sugar regularly, whether that is bubble tea, soda, fruit juice, or a frappuccino, your insulin spikes over and over. And over time, that can create the conditions inside your body where visceral fat and liver fat are more likely to build up. So number one is cut liquid sugar. Replace it with sparkling water, or diet soda is fine too if it helps you bridge the gap. And alcohol, well, that deserves its own villain origin story here too. Yes, some alcoholic drinks like cocktails and so on contain sugar, which doesn't help, but pure alcohol on its own is a toxin, and your body has to clear this. So while your liver becomes busy dealing with that alcohol toxin, normal fat metabolism is now disrupted. Your liver is preoccupied with that alcohol, so it becomes easier for fat to build up around your liver and your internal organs. So no, alcohol, it doesn't magically go straight to your belly, but it does hijack the organ that controls so much of how your body handles fat in the first place, your liver. Which is why alcohol is directly associated with more liver fat. Now, losing weight in general is going to help you lose some fat from your belly. But the goal here is not just to eat less. It's to change how your body handles insulin. And there's two nutrients that will help you lose weight and help you do this better than anything else. The first one is protein. And look, many of us have heard by now that eating enough protein is important. But what most people do not know about protein and visceral fat in particular is that protein has the smallest effect on insulin than all of the other macronutrients. Which means every time you swap a high sugar meal or snack for a high protein meal or snack, you are directly improving the metabolic environment that drives visceral fat. And on top of that, protein is the most filling macronutrient. So if your goal is losing weight, you should be using protein to your advantage. If you're finding yourself hungry 1 or 2 hours after eating, it's not a willpower issue, it's probably a protein issue. Now, I get my clients to aim for 1.2 all the way up to 2 grams of protein per kg of body weight per day. And if weight loss is a goal, going towards the higher end of that range is helpful. But to simplify it, just make sure you have a good protein source at every single meal. Eggs, beans, chickens, lentils, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, all of these things are great ways to get in more protein. But the next thing that most people are seriously underestimating is fiber. When it comes to visceral fat specifically, fiber slows down how quickly glucose enters into your bloodstream, which means a smaller insulin spike after every single meal. Fiber also helps feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut, so it's targeting visceral fat from 2 angles. And the best source of fiber is any plant food, anything that comes from a plant. So fruit, veg, nuts, seeds, beans, lentils, and even your oats, your whole grain breads, all of these things are great. You want to aim for around 30 grams of fiber per day, roughly 8 to 10 grams per meal. Now, if you're unsure how to get in enough protein and get in enough fiber, I've created a free course on how to make healthy, easy and realistic, and I'll leave that linked in the description box down below. It's not a long course, 10 short lessons, so you're not going to be bombarded with information either. So now we need to talk about measuring your visceral fat, because how else will you actually know if any of the changes that you're making are working? So I'm going to give you 3 methods. The first is the most accurate, which is medical imaging. So this is where you get a CT or an MRI scan to really look at those organs and see how much fat is in and around them. Now, obviously, it's great to do this, but it's not something that is accessible to everyone, and it's not something you're going to be doing every few months to track your progress. So the next method you can do right now, and it's completely free, and that is your waist to height ratio. So I want you to measure your waist around the narrowest point, and that number should be less than half your height. A ratio below 0.5 is healthy. Between 0.5 and 0.59 indicates a higher risk, and above 0.6 or more is quite high. And this is a way of measuring that is free and immediate, and it's much better than using your BMI. And then there is the middle ground, which brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Hume Health. Their body pod analyzer is like an in-body scan that you can do at home. It measures over 45 metrics, including your visceral fat index, body fat percentage, and muscle mass. And it gives you a visual humanoid diagram showing exactly how fat and muscle are distributed across your arms, legs, and core. So instead of just a number on a scale, you're getting an actual picture of what's happening inside your body. And this matters because your weight alone will not tell you if your visceral fat is changing. Your weight could stay exactly the same while you're losing fat, losing visceral fat, and maybe even gaining muscle, which is a completely different story metabolically. And the body pod shows you this, and its AI-powered insights connect your body composition with your sleep and your activity levels to tell you where exactly to focus on next. And on the body pod, a healthy visceral fat score sits between 1 and 12. And watching that number come down as you start cutting out that liquid sugar, cutting out the alcohol, increasing your protein, fiber, and doing more exercise, this can all be really motivating. I'll leave it linked below, as well as my discount code, which is valid for 7 days. And it stacks on top of Hume's current sale, so you can get up to 50% off. But there's one more final piece to measurement when it comes to visceral fat, and that is going to your doctor and getting some bloods checked, so we can have a deeper look at what's happening metabolically in your body. I would recommend asking for your HbA1c. This gives us an idea of how your body is handling blood sugar over the last 2 to 3 months. I'd also ask for your triglyceride levels, because these typically tend to rise as visceral fat accumulates. And I'd ask for your liver enzyme ALT too. And don't wait until something goes wrong with your health to go to the doctor and get these. Get a benchmark and then monitor these year over year to see how your body is changing. Now, there are different types of fat, and when it comes to visceral belly fat, they are not all created equal. Research has shown that even when calories are matched, the type of fat that you eat influences where your body stores that energy, particularly around the belly. So let's take this study and use it to our advantage. Nearly 300 people were split into 3 groups over 18 months. Group 1 followed normal healthy eating guidelines. Group 2 followed a Mediterranean diet, and Group 3 followed what's called a green Mediterranean diet, which means even more walnuts, polyphenols, plants, and less red and processed meat. Now, all 3 groups lost similar amounts of weight, but the visceral fat loss was completely different, which is where it gets interesting. Group 1 lost 4% visceral fat, Group 2 lost 6%, and Group 3, they lost an astonishing 14%. So same weight loss, but very different outcomes within the body. Now, most guidelines will tell you to keep your saturated fat under 20 to 30 grams per day. But this does not mean trying to eat low fat or never eating butter again. What it means is using olive oil more often, swapping to lean cuts of meat, using avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil again as your primary source of fat. So more of these things and less of the others will lead to very different outcomes within your body. Next, I want to talk about movement, because when it comes to belly fat, most people think cardio. And they're not that wrong actually. Cardio can be very useful for belly fat. But if you stop there, you're missing half the picture. Because resistance training, so lifting weights, this does something that cardio cannot. It builds muscle. A muscle is where your body clears glucose from your bloodstream after a meal. More muscle mass means less insulin required, which means less drive to store fat around your organs. So it's actually a huge pillar of this whole process. And for cardio, higher intensity exercise seems to be particularly effective. Now, you don't need to be doing sprints, but you do need to be pushing yourself a little bit harder than usual. An example would be maybe walking uphill at a fast pace, doing a spin class, or even a swim where you're pushing yourself fairly hard. Even just getting 15 minutes of this higher intensity 2 or 3 times a week can be beneficial. But here's what I actually think is nearly more important. It's really about what you do outside of that formal exercise, outside of going to the gym. And this is the part most people don't think about. But research shows that prolonged periods of sitting, this drives visceral fat accumulation independently of whether you exercise or not. So you can train hard for an hour, but if you sit for the next 15, that gym session does not undo all the metabolic damage from sitting. So it really isn't just about adding an exercise. It's about breaking up those periods of not moving at all. You can do something like set a timer to get up and stretch every hour. Some Apple Watches will actually give you a nudge to do this. It can be maybe getting a walking pad. I love mine for when I'm doing like walking meetings, but it could be just taking phone calls whilst pacing around the house, trying to take that stairs more often than the lift. It's all of these little things that make a difference. Now, the next thing is probably going to surprise a lot of people, but it's smoking. Many of us assume that smoking helps keep you slim, but research actually shows that smokers carry more visceral fat than non-smokers. And here's the catch. It's even seen when they weigh less overall. Smoking appears to directly drive fat accumulation around the belly. So if you smoke and that visceral fat is a concern of yours, I would really prioritize quitting. And then we have cortisol, which is a stress hormone that gets a lot of attention online. And when it comes to visceral belly fat, it does play a role. Visceral fat does have an unusually high amount of cortisol receptors compared to subcutaneous fat. And for women going through perimenopause or menopause, this is particularly important because as estrogen declines, our bodies become a little bit more sensitive to cortisol. Estrogen usually acts like a little bit of a buffer. So what you want to do here is not look for some kind of a cortisol supplement or some kind of a fancy cortisol detox. You really just want to prioritize your sleep and your stress management. And look, I know that's easier said than done, but it could be a matter of going to speak with your doctor about HRT or just opening up a conversation because there is huge advances in this area. For example, if you're waking up a lot at night because you need to use the bathroom, there can be things like vaginal estrogen creams that can help this. This will have the knock-on effect of helping your sleep, having the knock-on effect of helping your cortisol, having the knock-on effect of helping with your belly fat. So the message here is really managing the sleep and the stress, but taking a step back and looking at the wider picture. So to summarize, visceral fat, it responds to your metabolic environment. If you can change that, shifts will be seen. So again, looking at your liquid sugar, your alcohol intake, and upping your protein and your fiber. Making smarter fat choices like more olive oil, and looking at your movement across the day, particularly your periods of sitting. If you quit smoke, and just consider your sleep and your stress. Now, if you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. It really helps support my channel. And if you want to comment below and let me know what your waist to height ratio number was. Let's all try to support each other here. Let me know what actions you're going to take too. If you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe because I have new videos every single week. And I have that free healthy eating course to help you with meeting your protein and your fiber needs. As always, thank you very much for watching. Stay happy and stay healthy, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.